What would you do if you decided that you wanted to leave your current job, your good paying job, benefits, all the rest of that, to follow your dream of being your own boss, to start your own business? It can be scary. And for those of you who are thinking about that and taking charge of that new initiative, I'm sure you can make a case for both sides to do it or to not do it. So what should you do? Well, I went out and brought on my guest, Brooke Furniss, who did just that. She left her marketing job at an automotive dealership to start her own consulting company, and she is just killing it. But she also talks about some of the nuts and bolts and the fears and mistakes that she made when she started out. So for you listeners who are thinking about this is an episode you should make sure you have your pen and paper, or you're just type these notes onto your phone, because she's going to give you the step-by-step things that you need to be prepared for if you're ready to take that leap. So let's dive into today's episode with Brooke Furniss. All right, so let's dive in. I'm so excited. Brooke, finally, we get you on the show. So I want to jump in, because the theme of these first few episodes back now with the new season of the show is about change. There is so much change going on we can say in the world, in automotive industry that we work in, but also a lot of people. I'm seeing people making changes in their lives. They're leaving a business and going to a different business, leaving one side, in this case, automotive, leaving the dealership and going to a vendor. In your case, you left and now you've created your own business. And so I want to talk about it because I get phone calls, I'm sure you do as well, to say, this is what I'm thinking. What do you think? So regarding yourself, your journey, you left automotive, left a good job. And some people would say, why is she doing this? So take me back a little bit. Why did you decide that you wanted to leave and start your own company? Or maybe that wasn't your first choice, but help the listeners who possibly are sitting in that same seat, thinking about that same conversation in their head. What would you share with them from your own experience?
Well, first off, Glenn, thank you so much for allowing me to be on the show. This is such an honor. You and I know speak quite a bit, and it's the amount that I gained from you and what you have to say in the show alone. So thank you so much.
Thanks.
And anyone that's thinking about it, my younger brother, I look up to so much. And he and I have had more conversations than I can count exactly about this topic. And back in, I want to say it was 2016, I actually did start my company. And long story short, I had to close it up once I literally had just started, and I had to close up the shop. And so at that point, I ended up going to work for another company, and it was always in the back of my mind that I would start the company up again. And so that being said, when the opportunity, I was working, I went from the consulting into the dealership. And I just said, you know what, when this opportunity comes, not only am I going to do this, I need to do it the right way. Not that I did it the wrong way the first time around. My younger brother and I spoke a lot. And he just goes, okay, when you think about this, when you do it the second time around, you're going to do it the right way this time? And I was like, yes, I get it. And what I mean by the right way versus the wrong way is, no, I won't say it's the wrong way. I just learned from it that I spent so much money up front that I almost went broke doing it. And it wasn't that I just thought I was doing it the right way, but I learned from those mistakes. So why did I go from your question?
Let me ask you a question. So unpack that a moment. So yeah. I get it, the right way, wrong way. And I agree with you. I was just speaking with Michael Cirillo, who's a friend of both of ours, who said the same thing. Anytime we are on a journey, anytime there is some sort of failure that some people look at, if you look at it as a learning experience, a lesson on your journey, then it's not so diminishing long-term, maybe in the moment. But when you say I spent a lot of money up front, what were you spending money on?
Great question. So I started listening to people that thought they knew and they didn't. And if I would have just listened to one voice, I would have saved me a lot of money. So it was, oh, you need lawyers, you need this, you need to buy this, you need to have all of this when you don't need that. Do the bare minimum. The other stuff will come with time. I really thought that I needed to have all these shiny objects that I didn't need. So whatever it is the business is, I'm gonna get to the other part here first, but you think, okay, I have a service, a product, whatever it is you think that you can benefit someone, think a little bit further down the line. What is it, the problem that you're solving? And is anybody else solving that problem? So for me, I'm a consultant, right? Now, who else is in my space? Okay, unpack that for a second. Who are my competitors? What are they charging? And I know that even once I started, I had to revise that a little bit. And then, because what are your services? And then once again, what are your competitors doing? Because if you're doing the same thing that everybody else is doing, what benefit are you really serving? Because your entrepreneurs in general, I don't know the stat, but I know it's very high, those that don't actually succeed and they fall short. Well, once again, before you ever start, you and I are very similar this way, that you've got to work backwards to work forwards. So what problem are you solving? And is anybody else already solving that problem? If someone else is already solving that problem, how are you any different than what they are doing?
Right.
If you're not different, you are going to fail. And then from there is, unfortunately, entrepreneurs, how long can you stay broke?
Right.
You do have to think that through for a hot second, because you're going to go through some really bad times where you aren't taking a paycheck. And you'll eventually get there if you're going to stay true to yourself. But unpack all those things. Once I know I have this service, it's different than anybody else. Here's what I can do. And then do not grow too fast. Scale to your business. That is something, like, especially with me, is that I vet clients very thoroughly. If you do not line up with my values, I'm sorry, we're just not taking you on. Like, that's something that's really, really true to me. So all that money at the beginning, I spent on just things that I didn't need, that down the line I might need, but I didn't need up front. So the second time around, my brother and I spoke, and he's just like, all right, you going to listen to me now? I was like, yes, I'm going to listen to you now. So there's just like things that I can outsource. I mean, we have Fivers, Glenn, we have Upworks, all these things that I can pay $20 and have stuff done. Like, I don't need to hire all these other things. Now, there's certain things you don't want to outsource, don't get me wrong, but there's things like that I just don't need to do. Like, there's so much. I know AI is a big buzzword, so we can cross off that buzzword bingo right there. But there's things that you can do to lighten the load. And I'm still trying to find ways to still do parts of that, so I don't have to do so much of it. But there's things, just work smarter, not harder. So that was something that we just kind of really like tailored down. The original, when BZ Consultants Group came about, it was more of a CRM consulting company, and it evolved to something completely different. And it was just, okay, this is what we're going to do. Here's the problem we're solving. Here's what it is. If you can't describe your company in a 60-second elevator pitch, your company is way too complex.
Right. And what I love about that is, you're putting on all the trappings of a business, but you don't have a business yet. Right. So to your point is, I got t-shirts and logos on my t-shirts, and I hired a lawyer, which is fine. You may need to hire someone initially to just look at your contract, but what do you need them full-time for? Or I got office space, and I got this, and I got that. And all of a sudden you're going, well, I've spent all this money and I don't have my first client. So to your point, what is the product? What is the problem you're solving? So in this case, and what I also love about this is where you start and where you grow to, you may not even know, because you started as a CRM. Let me start there because I know I can provide value there. But over time, when a client says, well, could you also look at this? And you solve that. And you said, oh, I didn't realize that was a need, or that was a need. And now you start cobbling together another service or another offering. But also, to your point, is this idea of growing. And I think for all of you who are listening, if you are going to be a consultant, or even if you're going to work at another company, take on another project, there's time You can only do so much and do it effectively. So again, in your case, starting that consultancy, if I engage with a client, whatever the price point is, how much time a month is that? And then multiply it to say, well, if it's X number of hours, or you say to yourself first, how many hours do I have? And there's always something to do in terms of, I can always be busy, but what are your other responsibilities? Family, relationships, children, whatever it is. And then you say, okay, well, let's start with X hours. How many clients can I serve correctly in that time frame? Go find them versus worried about, and then I'm going to, and then I'm going to, then I'm going to. So I love that idea of planning it out. So for you then, someone's going to sit there and say, oh, got it. Great, Brooke. I already got my product. I got my service. I think I'm good. I haven't spent my money. How did you get started, right? Where did you go find your first clients? Because where people see you now, you're doing a great job branding yourself. You're out there, and we'll get to that point. But someone's sitting there going, where do I find my first client? What would your roadmap be for that individual?
Yeah, great question. And this is one of those things, before you ever take that step into, I'm going to step out from my cushy job that I get a paycheck each week, and I know that paycheck is coming. Before you make that step that I don't know where the paycheck is coming, you better have that network locked down. And what I mean by lockdown is that you're going to be told, oh, you know what, Brooke, when you go on your own, I'm going to be the first one to go with you. No, they're not. Right. I'm going to tell you right now, they're lying to you. Now, you will know your true friends when they actually do, when that money hits the bank. But that was a really tough lesson for me to learn. And I was told by once I'm going to go back to my brother, his name is Jordan. And Jordan just goes, hey, Brooke, until that money's in the bank. I go, oh, but Jordan, I have like 20, 30 people that said that. He goes, that's what they say, Brooke. Right. And it didn't hit me until I made that transition. And that pool of X amount of people and groups that said, oh, we're coming with you, Brooke, shrunk to this. And I just go, are you? Yeah, my voice went up like that many octaves as well, Glenn. But it really is true. You need to lock that down and say, okay, so when I leave on X day and or I start my company on X day, you're really going to do this. Okay, yeah. And just understand that percentage is going to go down to minuscule, but work your connections. I'm obviously very big on referrals and organic. Mm-hmm. That's how we personally work. That's just exactly how we work. As anyone that sees me, that's how we work. But work your connections. And then once that someone comes on board, it's not work. Ask them, ask for referrals, because the biggest thing that anything says about your company is that, hey, this is what they think of me. This is how much our services means that they're going to refer us to another person. But that is the biggest thing I can say is have your connections that that, hey, they would recommend us and I would do business with them. That is 100%.
And just to be a little caveat to that, not that everyone's out there lying to you.
Because, no, they're not lying.
No, but
they mean well. They mean well.
Well, but that's what I'm saying is that that person who you're friends with at another organization or business, in this case, in a dealership that may really want you. They see the value, but they're not the decision maker. They don't have the ability to do that. We've been in business for closing in on 20 years, and there's always still time where people go, I really want you, or I don't want them to change to someone else, and that's okay. What I love about it is that you're embracing the reality of always cut it down, do the old Joe Verdi, cut it in half, or even just say to yourself, well, listen, if 10 people said yes, can I survive on 20% yes? So if 10 people told me yes, at what point what do I really need? And I think it goes back to your planning is how long can I stay broke? That's one thing. But number two is what's the bare minimum? Like, what do I need to just be able to survive? And it might be 2 clients. So then go get 2 clients, right? Go find those 2. Don't worry about 10. Don't worry about all the people who told you no. Go find those 2 and serve them well. And then go find a third. Because I think one of the other things, and I'd love your opinion on this, is how do you switch your brain? Because as a you're both a delivery mechanism. You are it. They're not hiring just your company, they're hiring you. But your brain has to be part, I'm doing the work, executing the work, and with your team, serving them. But I also have to still put on my sales hat and go find the next one, because this contract may end at a certain time or something may happen. And I now have to make sure that I'm constantly delivering and selling. So walk through someone like that, because again, same thing. They could sit there and say, I got my first couple clients. But
Yeah.
if your head's down only working, and you're not working, as they say, I'm working in the business, not on the business, I could be surprised down the road.
So I think before you ever get into that mindset, when you start that business, you need to know yourself and look internally and say, where do I want this to be? Where do I see this business going? If you don't have that mindset of saying like, okay, do I want this? Am I happy? And this is another, once again, I'm going to bring my brother quite a bit because he is such a focal point on where I am today, is that he just goes, okay, Brooke, are you happy with, because he goes, I know you're a workaholic, you work way too much. I go, oh, yeah, that's about right. But he goes, isn't the whole point for you, wouldn't you be happier knowing that you could take off the weekends if you want to take a week off and go to Hawaii, versus knowing that you're strapped with so many clients you can never take a day off? So is quality of time more important than the quantity of clients? And it took me a second to think, like, all this time I always thought I wanted to make X and that was going to bring me happiness. And I go, oh my gosh, you're right. Wouldn't it? I would rather have quality of customers and quality of time versus quantity of customers. So that's something that you really have to dive into, say, okay, what is the business structure do I want? Do I want that big, shiny Amazon building with all this thing? And do I want to sell this company? Where is it you want to be? Once you know that, then that also goes into, okay, how am I switching my brain into selling? So for me, obviously I know we're going to get into the social and organic thing. While I'm branding myself, that brings in the customer. So I can still sell, but the majority of it is just coming in from people reaching out because they see me online and they see me from doing all different things or whatever. So that's the organic portion of it from there. Do I really need to go out and sell? Not a ton, because it comes in organically, but when I do need to, it's, hey, this is what I do. If you have any questions, let me help you. For me, the selling portion, I think I take a little bit different turn on it, because it's like, how may I help you? I saw this. Here's what I'm seeing. If you want more help, I'd love to assist you. And then it just happens organically. It's not like, hey, let me come tell you.
But again, and I think you're hitting on a great point, because I don't want people to think when I say sell, it's just I'm knocking on doors, and that may be how you expand your footprint. It's more the idea of that I have to be conscious that just because I have X number of contracts, let's say you have 10 clients and you're happy. I got my 10 clients. I'm working with my 10 clients. If you're not thinking somewhere in the back of your head, what if 3 of them left? What happens if 5? Because as good as you are, there are extenuating circumstances where a portion of them will be with you probably for a very long time. But there are changes, whatever happens, ownership, management. But it is that idea of just preparing yourself to say, I have to be nurturing the next round of people just in case, because I've seen people make the mistake of, I'm good, got my 10, and they stop everything else at the thought of, well, I'm serving all of these people and they're doing it incredibly well, but then they're not, again, paying attention to the business itself as an entity. As I said, you've done a very good job of branding the podcast, your podcast, you're on social, you're at events, you're visible. And I think you're very clear about what your services are so that people know how you can help them. And I think that goes back to originally what you were saying is, what is the problem you solve? What is the service you provide? Can you say it in 3 sentences and someone nods their head and says, oh, I know someone who could use that. That's really the key. And then it is that amplification in a manner that suits you, right? Yeah. You're not, people can say that you're very energetic.
What?
Right? But you're not salesy in that way. where there are other people who are salesy and energetic, if you know what I mean. So again, what they're seeing is who you are. And again, going back to the conversation with Michael yesterday, that's the one thing that I respect about him. He had said the same thing about me and other people we know, is the people that you see here on this conversation is who you're going to meet at an event, on stage, who are going to work with you. There is no, oh, that was different than what that is here. And I think that's really important also for building a brand, is what people see and what you're selling them better be what you deliver, or else they're going to say there's a disconnect and fall away.
Yeah. My goal, if anything, one, I'm the same person regardless, whether it's here in person, whatever. And if anything, I better be better in person. Like, I hope I meet and exceed your expectations.
Right.
Like, I have a very, very strong role. Like, before I opened my business, I was rarely on social. Like, anyone that knows me before, like, Brooke, we couldn't get you to post on social. I was like, but it changes when you have your own business, you got a brand, whatever. I also have a role that if I can't be true to myself, I will never turn on the camera. I just can't do that, because I have to stay true to myself. And the same thing is if someone sees there's so much fakeness out there that right. Yeah. I stand next to a freaking Corvette and somehow I don't own that. What is this? I don't know. So it's just like, I'm not going to contribute to that. And also that would also then lead to an appearance or a tell that that's who I am, and that's not who I am. Then you meet me, you're like, wait, she drives a Pinto, but she's standing next to a Corvette. Like, that's nuh-uh. It's never going to happen.
So let's pivot then. So taking the next step now on this journey to help someone who's sitting out there. Again, this is the little masterclass of helping them. So someone now they've done what you said. They've planned it out. I can talk about it. I have my network. Off we go. I have my few clients. Talk to them about your use of social events, network, all of the different things, the podcast. For you, what is your strategy? How do you plan it out? How much do you plan out, so that someone could say, if they're taking notes, well, Brooke records this, does this. So walk me through your strategy to keep your brand out in the public's eye.
Well, Glenn, I think you're my second or third guest on the podcast, which we're going to need to redo because it's changed just a little bit since we first did it. So, but I will tell you, so the whole thing with the podcast, I literally just turned on the camera thinking, if I can help one person, I've done my job. And what I hear when people reach out to me and say, hey, I want to start a podcast, I want to do this, my first question is, once again, what is the goal of it? And so many times I hear, well, I want to get it monetized. All right, that's great. That shouldn't be the end goal. Your goal should be to help people. Because if you go in the mindset, I'm going to monetize it, you're going to fall flat. Your goal needs to be, how can I help the person at the other end of this? How are you helping them? Because if you go to YouTube, if you go to a podcast, why are you there? What is the goal? They're there to learn something. They're there to something to help them. And that should be your goal. To entertain
them. It could be to educate them, whatever it is. But to your point, if it comes off as, I'm just trying to do something to make money, what happens is you get swayed to the newest thing. I'm going to be on Instagram and all of a sudden I'm going to dance. Oh, I'm going to do cooking videos. I'm going to do this. You're chasing attention versus being true to yourself. So going back to your business, whoever's listening, right? Whatever your problem you're solving, talk to them about that, educate them on that, not sell your product, solve the problem, the problem, explain that, have guests on. As we know, this podcast was built to help people who find themselves in charge. And they don't have the training, or they go, I want to do this project, or I'm now in charge of a team, or I got promoted, and they're looking around going, what do I do? And so all of these conversations are built around, and I'm hoping that when they leave, they go, oh, I got 3 things that I can go do. Oh, someone else is helping me. And so for this, it's the reason why I wanted you on here is I'm seeing so many people going out to start their own ventures, and bravo. But there's sometimes you can just sort of sense you're doing things before you plan some of these things. And I'm not sure you thought everything through, and then off you go. And so maybe they'll learn. So for you then, so going back, do you have a set schedule? Do you have
Yep.
certain tools that you use?
Yeah.
How do you cut up your content? Walk me through that strategy.
So this is where we're going to pull the wool back here. We're going to see the Wizard of Oz here. Is the wizard behind? Yeah, I think that's what it is. Is that I actually need to find a better way, because this is a massive, massive time suck on me that a lot of people think that I pay someone. I actually am doing it all. So I have to find a better way. But right now, so I'm booked out about 2 months in advance, month to 2 months in advance right now. And I have a guest, and guest, usually about 2 weeks before guest, here's what it is. I use Loom Video, and Loom Video, I'll give them, hey, if you've never seen the show, here's what the show is. I'll show it up there. Then I have a template of like, hey, guest, here, walk them through what the show is. I always ask the guest, hey, what is your preferred topic choice? I think next week, we're coming out on our 100th episode. I've yet to be turned down on on a preferred topic choice, because there's always a guest has something that he or she really wants to discuss. So I'll ask them first. Then from there, once they come back with their preferred topic choice, I will create the title and the ad copy. And then from there as well, once we have that, I do 10 to 20 questions that will keep the conversation. Because as a podcast host, your whole job, Gunn, as you know, is to keep the guests talking. Like you have some guests that like, they might be really talkative, but you get them on the show and they just like clam up. You're like, oh,
right.
Okay, this is great. So then your job is to keep them talking. In addition to that, in that little template, I'll also have at the end of the show, there's lightning round questions, but I want to make sure that they have all the information up front so they can have that. Okay, so then on every Friday at noon Central, we go live. I use StreamYard, what I use. I love the tool. I went the gamut of figuring out, okay, I went Zoom, I went Restream, and I went to StreamYard. So once it goes live, for the beginning and end graphics, I use Fiverr for my gigging partner for those graphics. And then the following Thursday, I will do, Thursday night before the show, I do a Facebook Live, announce the guest, then shoot it out, and then Friday's the show. The following week, I use Audacity to do all of the audio, excuse me. And then I cut up all the videos myself, like the next Friday when it goes, or Thursday when it goes live into YouTube land. I personally cut everything. There's a company called Pexels.com. Anybody out there? It is a phenomenal site. It is all, you get free videos. It's 4K if you want videos and images. So if you're a content creator out there, it's awesome. Yes, you can go to Shutterstock and get the stuff, but if you don't want to buy a license, there's so much free video there that you can use. So I'll take stuff from there. If I want to throw in a funny GIF, I'll throw, obviously Canva is a great way to get stuff as well. So I'll throw different things in there, put it all together, and then that will go live on YouTube on the following Thursday. So 6 days later from the time of the show, and then goes into podcast land. I personally I was going to switch over to a platform, but then they decided to go away in 2023. So I'm still with Anchor FM. That goes out to everything. And the week
after,
who
are you going to use?
Sounder.
Oh yeah, I was on Sounder and I was very disappointed that they left. So I went back to Libsyn, but I'm thinking of going to Buzz. I can't remember if it's Buzz, but I don't know. Paul Daly and Michael, I have to talk to them about who they're using again. And I'm going to lean on StreamYard. I've been playing around. Same thing for those of you who are doing podcasts. I tried Riverside, but it gets wonky. So I defaulted to Zoom, but I'm going to go to StreamYard because Michael was go to StreamYard. And I like awesome. It. I've used it. For podcasting, for my brain just defaults here, and I don't want to have a guest on and everything goes, falls out, so you go by your reliable. There's another one. I'll give you I'll put it in the show notes because I can't off the top of my head, but there's a new AI video platform, of course.
Podcastle.
No. There's another one where you can upload your video and it'll automatically chop up into different pieces for you with different sizes. But the best thing is to go in, and because I did it, but it just randomly takes time and it could be in the middle of a sentence, but you can go in and say, I want from this segment to this segment, and literally in a heartbeat, it will give you things with different, and you can change the templates around, whatever, and captions are not instantaneously. And here's one for Facebook, here's one for Instagram. And so I'll find that. But there are, to your point, there's so many tools out there. But then do you use tools like a Sprout Social or something along those lines for posting, or do you manually just post on the given day?
Yeah, great question. So when I'll use CapCut to make my shorts. What I have found is I actually don't use Sprout. I don't, and there's a specific reason for that. One, I don't, because what I have found a couple of, not more than a couple times, this goes into the analytical portion of my brain, is that when I go through, I will see that Sprout Social doesn't tag things correct. Like I've seen just so many times it will throw, and I'm going to forget what it's called, but it tags things incorrectly in GA, and it drives me bonkers. Like I don't know how it's doing it or who it's doing it, if it's a manual error, but every time I look at my client's GA and I see the same thing over and over again, I was like, what the crap is Sprout Social doing? I don't know if it's flipping things. I don't know if it's how it's manually put in.
It depends on, again, we can go down this rabbit hole, but because I dealt with email marketing platforms, a lot of them, there's a couple things. One is if you put in a UTM tag yourself, it fights theirs. If you use theirs, sometimes it doesn't grab it correctly, and then it ends up in direct traffic because it doesn't read it, just reads it as the URL. So I haven't seen Sprout because usually we're sending them to the website and it's usually not that bad, but this was more email marketing, which I think you or someone else was. Didn't you have this problem before?
That was me.
So yeah, that was it. So there's always these tools, but what I love about it is being honest that this takes time.
Yeah.
And this is
So
a
much
commitment. Yeah, there is. And that's why there are people who, one of the first things they offload is someone to cut this up, because even I have someone on my team who will cut, but it's a very funny thing. They'll say, well, what are the sections you want me to promote? Like what pieces? And I said, well, you choose. And they literally, it's a younger person, said, some of this doesn't resonate with me, so I don't know what's important. And it was honest. It was honest. And I said, okay, but that was then taking back ownership to say, listen, if this is my show or my, writing or then I need to direct. And so again, to all of you out there, if you think, well, Fiverr is going to do this, you still have to direct the person for Fiverr. And same thing, if you have a team, you have to be very clear. And so again, going back to being in charge of anything, clarity in what your expectations are, clarity in execution, training them correctly to do this. So if you're going to offload this to someone, be it a team, or if you're in a dealership or in a business and you're in charge of the social media, you're in charge of this marketing, you can't just tell people, go ahead and do it, or tell them once. You have to show them, you have to coach them, you have to go back and inspect so that you make sure that it's happening. So then you can slowly let them do what they need to do. That doesn't mean that you ever stop checking. It just means I don't have to check every single minute of every single day, but I could do a weekly check-in and we should be able to stay on pace. So yeah. So then what do you do anything in terms of transcribing the podcast or turning it into a written portion of your podcast?
So yes. So with Loom, if you, the package that I have, as soon as it gets on the StreamYard, I immediately download it, throw it into Loom, and Loom automatically has the script done for me within like 60 seconds. So then from there, this is where I know that some people are against AI. I get that. Where I use Chat GPT is for things that I know the lane where it can go. So I can take, here's this. Now when I can say, I want to take the script from here. Okay, so when I'm transcribing, when I've got the transcript, I can say, all right, take this and create a YouTube post title, create blah, 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 blah. But you can't just ask it once. So knowing how you can use it. Okay, here's section here to here, make a good YouTube chapter title. So then I know from here to here, I'm going to cut this portion up. So I've got it there. So that's how I take it, because the podcast is like an hour long. That's so much content there. Anchor doesn't allow you, like you can only have, I think it's like 3,000 characters or something like that in Anchor. So what I'll do is I'll have chapters. So each chapter has a bunch of SEO value into it. There's no way I could put all of the script in there, but I'll have, we'll say 10 chapters where it covers all the SEO value that was needed there. That's how I take it. But I'll take, instead of me thinking all that up and, hey, giving the correct prompts into it. And then that's how I do it. And then I'll do the same thing for LinkedIn, all those social platforms, but asking correctly and then asking again and again and again, and then finding how to do it. And so that's how I do it.
That's great. So again, folks, this is such a, I hope you go back and really have your notes and take time to go through this, because what you've just laid out, Brooke, is, such a clear map. And a lot of people, that's why I wanted to have this conversation with you, because I think there's a lot of people out there who are either thinking of it or midstream, and they're wondering why something's not working or connecting. And it could be going back to what your big, the conversation point you started, which was, I wanted all the flashy things first. I wanted to tell everybody I was in business before I had a business. Then it's, okay, how did we map out the business? And then it's, well, how do we go grow our sales? How do we deliver this? And now we're talking about, how do you broadcast this? There's a lot of time. There's a lot of things that you can do. And if you're not organized, it can seem overwhelming. And even if you are organized, it can seem overwhelming, because, well, it is that idea of, taking, for instance, again, taking your podcast and what can I do with this? Well, I have the podcast, the audio. Well, then how do I chop that up a little bit to push out into some other platforms? And do they work? Do they not work? And then let me look at the video. If you are going to do video, well, how do I chop that up? Transcribing it. What do I do? What's the schedule? How do I, all of this takes time. It takes skill. It takes, attention, or else what happens is then you just get caught up in pushing out content for content's sake. And yes, that's good, but it could be more if you thought about it. But again, remember, I've had people get so caught up in the marketing of it at the expense of their actual business.
Oh yeah. And that's a big one, Glenn. That's so big. The lot they get so caught up. And that's something that I actually backed up. We were doing 2 episodes a week. And I finally just go, I don't have time to sleep. Like, cause it's within a given episode, it's probably about 8 hours it takes to, by the time, and this is honest speaking, people, it's about an hour episode. By the time I take that and then chop it up, take the audio, clean everything, it's about 8 hours. So if you're not in it for the long haul and you just think I'm going to put this out and I'm going to all of a sudden become YouTube viral, no, it doesn't work that way. It doesn't at all. So really think it through, and don't just start, please don't just start buying crap because you think you need the greatest camera and you need the Canon, blah, 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 blah. You don't need that. This thing right here is good enough. It really is.
No, most of those have 4K cameras in it.
Yes.
I mean, or you're the new camera, I had my laptop broke, so I got a new MacBook Pro, and that camera is beautiful. Really? And that, to your point, is just start very simply. Figure out the basics. The equipment will come later. Now, listen, if you're blessed to have the equipment or you work in a company that has the equipment, bravo. But at the end of the day, it is the content. That's what matters. People are going to pay attention to you because, again, if you think about it, to your point, when you're scrolling, I remember Denise, who heads up our agency, she used to always say that, what's going to stop your thumb from scrolling? And I'll guarantee all the TikToks or all the reels or whatever you're looking at, it's not professionally done. It's somebody on a phone leaning in to talk to somebody, or they prop their phone up and they're dancing or whatever it is you're watching. But it is that idea of, what is your content? What are you trying to accomplish? What's the purpose of this? And I agree with you. I did the same thing. At one point, I was thinking 2 episodes, and all of a sudden I said, this is too much. And then Michael Cirillo, again, my podcast guru, I watched what he was doing. He didn't tell me. I was like, let me watch what he was doing. So what he was doing is he'd have the full episode, but then he would take a chunk of, let's say, something from the second half of the episode and make that a separate episode. And so he'd have the full one, during the week on, let's say, a Thursday, and then Monday would be the short second half, because he was saying, you can have your podcast short, 10, 15 minutes, but sometimes you get on a roll. Like, we wouldn't have been able to accomplish what we accomplished today. But he said, well, some people probably may not get to that point, especially if you pivot to a completely different topic. And now, like, for me, learning is I'm trying to keep it to one topic. And if I love the person so much, let's come back another day, versus let's pivot over here to another topic. And then you're just talking and you lose everything. So I think you learn these things by doing it. But it is, I agree with you, that idea of time, that this takes too long. at the expense of what? Could be your
Mhm.
clients, it could be your family, could be your health.
Yeah, it's
So
very true. It's very, very true. And knowing that balance of, hey, we're so tuned that, oh, I got to post this. I got to post this.
mhm.
And it's okay that if you, I mean, yes, is consistency very crucial? Yeah. But if you're just putting crap out there, you're going to lose the audience. And
Yeah.
I also want to say that please know your first videos, yes, it's important to post. They're going to suck. And that's okay because
Mhm.
you're going to get better. I definitely look back at my first videos and I was like, oh, wow. Yeah, but we've improved. Believe me, I have. We definitely have. And my video, our show on this Friday, the week next week, it's going to be better. Each time you turn on the
And the
camera,
other thing,
you're getting better.
is that you also have to embrace seasonality, because
Yes.
think about podcasts that you've listened to that after a while you go, I'm going to take a break. So don't get upset if some people go, oh, I used to listen to you. I used to watch your stuff. It's okay, because again, I do it. I have a couple podcasts that I love, but also I need a break. And then you go back to them and you go, oh, this is why I was back there. The key is you don't know who's coming to your podcast or your content, whatever it is, or your business for the first time, the third time, the 20th time. It's all right. The key is that you're there, and it all goes back to what you said. And I really hope you all listen to it. It's, how am I serving those people? How am I helping those people? What's the problem I'm solving? And as long as you're anchored into that and everything grows off of that, I think you're putting yourself in a position to be successful.
Yes, I agree. 100%.
Great. So first off, this has been phenomenal. Like I said, I hope you're taking notes, because this is like I said, this is about as tactical as you can get in a certain period of time here. And again, please make sure, we'll talk about it in a little bit, but please make sure you connect with Brooke, because she will help you. She is one of those people that will help you answer your questions. She's honest with her feedback of ups and downs and things like that. But again, this is where learning from people who have already done some of the things that you want to do are important. So, okay, at the end of every show, we ask 3 questions. I call them the one, because I want your just one answer. So within all of this change, what you're doing, is there a book or a speaker or podcast, something? What's the one thing that when you read it, it impacted you to help you on this journey specifically for change?
Man, once again, you always come with the good questions here, Glenn. Always come with the good questions. The most recent book, and I literally just read it, and I know we were talking about Katie Maris. I just read Katie Maris's book. That was obviously a great book.
Yes.
Man, I am.
Yes, custom her experience. So
yeah, mine's sitting over here. I can't get up right now, but it's literally right behind my thing. Mainly because I wear business up top and shorts on bottom right now. Let's not kid ourselves. But oh man, I am trying to think of what. Man, Glenn, I think you probably stumped me on this one right here.
That's okay. We
podcast.
We have one. We've got a book. We can post it. It's okay.
Yeah, I probably, just because that's the most recent book that I've read as of late. I've got a couple on tap right now. The one person that I follow a ton, it's not necessarily on podcasts, just in general, is Gary Vee. I follow Gary Vee so much because so much of what Gary Vee does, it just resonates with me, whether it's the empathy, whether Gary Vee and I's mouth are very similar. Anyone that knows me, I've got a sailor's mouth. It's just calling it like it is. Like, yes, you need to have the empathy, and it's never too late to start. Like, I love that so much. And so to me, that is, I look to him so much. Good. So they'll probably the two.
Okay. Next question. What's the one thing that you are working on for yourself right now that a year from now, do you want to look back and said, man, that was worth it? So this changed. I'm working on X. So a year from now, I'm in a different place. What would it be?
Okay. The biggest thing for right now that has always been a struggle with me is working smarter, not harder. That is the biggest one, is that one.
So what's the one thing you're working on to help you work smarter right now to get you
right now point? Is, man, it just in general, time management, I'll say, is that I'm still working just insane hours. And as a business owner, yes, you work those, but just I'm still trying to find that balance between whether it's the podcast, whether it's side hustle things, whether it's just all those things, be like, holy crap, Brooke, you've got to stop the 15-hour days every single day. Like that is something I'm still trying to figure that out. Cause once you get to that point and you're constantly evolving, but you're getting pulled in so many directions. And how do you manage that? That is something I'm really struggling with.
Well, that is funny you say that. That is one of the solo episodes, because I've been working on it with some people, and I think there's something to this, but it's how to organize yourself, and so that you feel more in control of your time and your day. So I have this project that I've been working on. I've worked on it with a few people, coached them through some of this, and they are just blown away. So I'm going, there's something to this. So I will fill you in. I'll fill you in.
I'd love to.
Okay. Last question. A lot of fantastic information today. This is great. So if you had to say, if there was one thing out of all the things we talked about that you hoped the listeners got out of today's episode, what would that one thing be?
One thing, man, I don't know that we really touched on this. I'm just going to say, if regardless what you're doing, you've got to be true to you. That is so vital. And whether you are doing entrepreneur, whether you're getting a salary check, it doesn't matter what you do, whether you're working backwards or work forward, you've got to stay true to yourself, whether it's social, whatever it may be. And it's so imperative that you do that, because the minute you stray from what your core values are, it's
slippery slope.
Yeah.
Slippery
you crumble
slope.
really quickly.
Yeah, no, that's great. No, we touched a little bit on it, but I thought that was real, that I agree with you, being true to yourself, because it just feels better when, you know, I had a friend who used to always say, that's what he said, if you tell the truth, you don't have to remember 87 million stories that you told all these different people about who you are. And I always thought, that's pretty smart. Okay. So great. So listen, if people do want to connect with you, and we'll lay it all into the show notes too, but where do they find you, company-wise, personal-wise, if they want to connect with you?
Yeah, I am on about every social network known to mankind at this point. LinkedIn, pretty much. LinkedIn, it's just / I think it's Brooke C Furniss or Brooke Furniss, one of the two. I honestly don't remember. And I'm on Facebook. We're on Instagram. I recently joined the the TikTok world, still trying to figure the whole situation out. I feel like I'm dating myself right now, but I am. We are on, and then the BZ Consultants Group, same thing, is on YouTube. It's on literally every social platform. And then Facts Not Feelings on it's on everything as well. So
great.
Anywhere. And then our website, and then I'm also on Clubhouse. So literally just type my name in.
Anyway, you can find her. Yes. And we'll list everything in the show notes as well, so that you can connect. And as I said earlier, please do connect with Brooke. She is definitely someone you need to have in your network of people. And if she can't help you, she'll point you to someone that can. So
100%.
All right. So again, thank you so much. This was fantastic. So audience, you know the drill. Please make sure, if you found value today, which I'm sure you did, please share this out. There's someone in your network who could benefit from the conversation we had. Please make sure you like it, subscribe to the YouTube channel, the whole bit. We're everywhere as well. As always, I appreciate the fact that you spent time with Brooke and myself today. I know there's a lot of places for you to consume content. The fact that you spent time with us means the world to me. I am here to help you. If there's anything I can do, you know how to find me as well. And as I say at the end of every episode, you're in charge. But now today, Brooke has given you a few more tools for your toolkit to help you become more successful, both personally and professionally. Thank you again, Brooke. Look forward to seeing you. And next week, got a new guest for you to help you on your journey. Thanks so much. We'll see you next time. Again, Brooke, see you soon.
Thank you.